If you're a business owner filing as an S corporation, this video is perfect for you. I'm going to show you how to reduce your taxes right now, but also set you up for retirement later on. And of course, we're going to talk about SEP IRAs for S corporations. And for me to do this, we're going to go over the key information such as the who, what, when, where, why, and how. And what I mean by this is that we're going to break it down really simple so it's easy to understand. We're going to first tackle the who. Who does a SEP IRA relate to? Who will benefit from this? We're going to go through the what. What is a SEP IRA? What are the things that I need to know about it? Next, we're going to go through the why. Why is it important for me to do a SEP IRA? Why do I need to do it? Why do I even need to know about it? We're also going to go through the when, as in what other important due dates that you need to know about this. Lastly, we're going to go through the how, and this is the step-by-step instructions from beginning to end on what you need to do to accomplish a SEP IRA. So now let's talk about the who. Who qualifies for a SEP IRA? Pretty much anyone that is self-employed will qualify for a SEP IRA. If you have a sole proprietorship, an S corporation, or a partnership, you will qualify for a SEP IRA. So if you are not self-employed and you maybe get a W-2 from a company, you will not qualify for a SEP IRA. And for business owner, it's important that I emphasize when I make these recommendations to client, I make sure that the client who are business owners do not have any full-time employees, because full-time employees could cause them to be eligible for the company SEP IRA as a whole. And what's going to happen is that you as a business owner may have to also contribute on behalf of all of your employees that qualify. Now, there are qualifiers, so not all employees will qualify, but definitely make sure that if they are full-time employees, they have a chance to qualify. So we want to make sure that if you do have any full-time employees, that a SEP IRA might not be the best option for you. However, if you don't have any employees and you're just say a solopreneur where you're just working for yourself, then a SEP IRA could be perfect for you. Now let's go over to what. What is a SEP IRA? It's basically a retirement account for self-employed individuals. As I stated earlier, self-employed individuals with no full-time employees. Also, what is important to know is that a SEP IRA is different from a traditional IRA. A SEP IRA may have higher contributions limit compared to a traditional IRA. For S corporations, the SEP IRA contribution limits is going to be a little bit different compared to a sole proprietorship. For S corporations, it's actually going to be 25% of your W-2 wages in box 1. Be aware that this is going to be subject to the annual maximum contribution limits for retirement plans, meaning that once you reach a certain amount for retirement contributions, you can't go over that amount. So if you're an S corporation owner that maybe gave yourself a payroll or W-2 wage of $1 million, it won't be $250,000 allowed to be contributed into your SEP IRA because of that maximum allowed that the IRS set. But instead, you're going to be maxed out at around $66,000 using the 2023 limits. So one tip is that it might be a good idea if you do want to max out your SEP IRA as an S corporation owner to increase your payroll, but not too much. You just want to increase it just enough to hit this maximum limit that is allowed for retirement contributions. So let's go through an example of an S corporation having contribution limits. So in this example, the net profit shown on the K1 as S corp owner is $60,000, while the W-2 salary that the owner paid himself is $40,000. So technically, the SEP IRA is an employer contribution, meaning that this will be deducted on the S corporation tax return, not on the individual tax return side. So remember that as an S corporation owner, this SEP IRA is considered an employer contribution, meaning that because it's the employer, it's going to be deducted on the S corporation itself. So to calculate this, if the client paid himself $40,000, 25% of the W-2 wages would be $10,000. So this client would be allowed to contribute $10,000 into a SEP IRA. Now let's talk about the why. Why do you as a taxpayer needs to know this? Why is it important for you to even try to do this? And the main reason is because the money that you put in is a tax deduction now. This means it's going to lower your overall taxes in the current year. The second reason why a SEP IRA is great to have is the flexibility. You are not bound to any certain amount every given year. What you can do is you can actually pick and choose how much to put in every single year as long as you don't go over the maximum amount. So if this year you're doing great and you want to contribute more, you could contribute the max. But let's just say next year, maybe business isn't doing so well, so you want to contribute a little less. So you could definitely elect to not contribute the the max and contribute even zero or maybe even half of the max. But just know that you do have flexibility with the SEP IRAs, that you're not bound by any amount every single year, that you could put a high amount in one year and a low amount in another year. And the third reason is simplicity. A SEP IRA is really easy to set up and there are very low fees. All you really have to do is open it inside a brokerage account and just leave it open, and then you fund it every single year. And the reason why I put this in here is because this is actually more simple than any other retirement accounts for self-employed individuals, such as a solo 401k or defined benefit plan. So for solo 401k and defined benefit plan, those actually have higher fees and have a lot of more paperwork on an annual basis to file. So that's why I really like the SEP IRA, because it's so simple to open, so simple to maintain, and the fees are very low. Now let's go over the important due dates. We have to make sure that you do make the contribution by the specific due date so that it will qualify as deduction for the year that we are reporting. And the first due date we want to talk about is March 15th. This is going to be the most important due date because this is the last date that you could contribute to a SEP IRA. However, if you file an extension on the corporate tax return and on the personal tax return, then the due date for the SEP IRA contribution is actually the extension due date, which is normally September 15th. So it's important to know that the first due date is March 15th, but if you file an extension, that will give you an extra 6 months to figure out if you want to contribute to a SEP IRA, how much you can contribute. So it gives you plenty of time. So by September 15th, if you file an extension, that will be your new due date. Now let's talk about the where. And before I talk about the where, I want to iterate that clients actually has to do the contribution themselves, meaning that for 401k, if you're working at a company, it's taken out of your paycheck every single paycheck. For SEP IRAs, it's not like that. It's actually you as the business owner to put the money and deposit it into the SEP IRA directly by the due date. So if your SEP IRA contribution is a high amount like $50,000, you have to make sure that you have $50,000 that you can deposit into the SEP IRA by the due date. So remember that no one is going to do the SEP IRA contribution for you except for you as the business owner. Me, as a tax advisor or tax preparer for you, I'm not going to be able to make that contribution for you. You actually have to do it yourself and make the transfer to the SEP IRA yourself. In terms of where to do this, I usually advise clients to go to the bank that they're already banking with to see if they offer a SEP IRA. That's usually the easiest way. If they don't, no worries. You could also use other brokerage accounts such as Schwab, Fidelity, or Vanguard. There are many other brokerage accounts that also offer SEP IRA. Another thing I want to add about this where is that the contribution and deduction is shown on the corporate tax return. It is not shown on the personal tax return whatsoever. So make sure that the deduction, when you put the SEP IRA contribution in, is shown as a deduction under pension line on the S corporation return, as a deduction on the business, not on the personal tax return. Now let's go through the how, and this is the step-by-step from beginning to end on what you need to do if you are interested in contributing to a SEP IRA. The first thing is to know your contribution amount. So know exactly how much do you qualify to contribute for, and also know what you're comfortable with contributing. Do you want to do the max? Maybe you only want to do half. Maybe you only want to do a little bit. So just know your contribution amount by knowing how much your maximum is and also what you're comfortable with contributing. The second thing is to find a brokerage that has a SEP IRA account. Like I mentioned earlier, most brokerage accounts will offer a SEP IRA. So the next thing you want to do is contribute the funds to the SEP IRA. And I would always make sure that the client knows which year to apply it to, because you want to make sure you apply that SEP IRA contribution to the correct year if the brokerage account asks. The other thing is that you just want to make sure that you are contributing by the correct due date. Once you make the contribution, it's good to confirm with the accountant that you made the contribution, because you want to make sure that the accountant is going to reflect your contribution on the corporate tax return. So once the accountant knows that you made a contribution and they reflected on the tax return, you should check it. Check your tax return. Make sure that you see that deduction on that specific line item. You want to make sure that you see the deduction, and you want to make sure that it's accounted for in the tax return to get the tax savings. The last step is to get ready to finalize the tax return, because usually the last step is where the accountant's waiting for the client to confirm if they're contributing. So once everything's confirmed and once you know that the deduction has been taken on the business tax return, then you're pretty much ready to file. Just because you're self-employed, don't think that the SEP IRA is your only option. You actually have multiple options depending on qualifications, how much you want to contribute, and what you're comfortable with. The first option I'd like to go over is traditional IRA. This is the simplest form. This usually has the lowest contribution amount. For this current year, as I'm taping this, it's only $6,500 maximum that you could contribute. So this is going to usually be your lowest amount that you could contribute. So if you're not looking to contribute that much, you just want to put a little bit in, the traditional IRA might be good. So even though you are self-employed, you could still have a traditional IRA. I should also mention that under here is also a Roth IRA if you wanted to do that as well. So as we've been talking about the SEP IRA, this is also an option, and this is probably the simplest option that I would suggest for self-employed individuals. Now there is another account called a solo 401k. This is actually going to allow you to put more than a SEP IRA. The solo 401k will also use 20% of your business profit in the calculation, but you also could add on top of that the normal 401k allowed annual contribution, which can be around $20,000 on top of that 20% that you already contributed. So it could be a lot more. And the solo 401k is only recommended if you're looking to contribute a lot more than what the SEP IRA will allow. Now, if you want to contribute even way more than that, than what the solo 401ks offers, there's something called a defined benefit plan that will allow you to put way more into that account, possibly even 100% of your profit in the business. Just know that with the two accounts, solo 401k and defined benefit plan, they do have higher fees and they do require annual filings of certain forms to make sure that the account is up to date. So to summarize this is that the SEP IRA is a good account to have if you're looking for something simple, lower fees, and will provide you a decent amount to put towards retirement account. As a self-employed individual, sole proprietorship, you do have multiple options to choose from when it comes to what retirement accounts that you want to contribute to. And each of these retirement accounts, between traditional IRA, SEP IRA, solo 401k, and defined benefit plan, they all offer tax savings. It just comes down to, do you want to contribute a little or a lot? As a sole proprietorship business owner, now you know what a SEP IRA is and what you need to do to actually move forward if you're interested in contributing to a SEP IRA. I hope you find this video helpful. Please like and share like always, and we'll move on to the next.